everyone. So today we'll be doing our second Sunday yoga session. So for this class, you don't need any props in particular, but some props that might be helpful to have are 2 blocks and a bolster or anything closely resembling those items. So you can use a pillow, you can use any kind of square item in your house that gives you a little bit of height, maybe for sitting, as well as for some forward folds and lunges. So let's start with lots of room on our mats. We're going to set our props off to the side. We're going to have lots of room behind us. Feet and knees together. Let's slide the hands behind the thighs. And we'll lower down nice and slow. 1 disc, 1 vertebra at a time onto our backs. Letting the spine lengthen when we arrive. I like to dig my elbows down, lift up my back ribs, lengthen them away from my pelvis, lift up the back of my head and lengthen it away from my shoulders. Let's walk the feet towards the seat. Let's draw one knee and the other knee into the chest, interlacing over the shins, and then we'll start to rock side to side. Close the eyes here. Let's squeeze the inner line of the legs together, squeeze the inner edge of the feet together. Pressing out through the feet, maybe pulling those toes back towards the shins, maybe spreading them away from one another. And then letting the rocking side to side turn into nice big circles, one direction. And then changing the interlacing of the fingers and changing direction with the circles. Still pressing through the feet, still squeezing those knees together. Shoulders are heavy to the floor and the jaw is relaxed. And then we'll rock side to side one more time on the sacrum. From here, let's bring those knees back through center. Let's take the interlace just over that right shin and let's lower the left sole of the foot down to the floor. Let's keep that left knee bent as we hug the right knee in. Pressing out through the right sole of the foot, hugging those toes back towards the shins. No wrinkles in those ankles. Let's take this leg and let's cross it tightly over the left for sleepy cow. So the thighs are touching, we're squeezing those legs together, and the feet are really nice and active here. And then we're going to fire at the legs, we're going to draw those knees in towards the chest. And let's interlace behind that left thigh. If we feel like our shoulders are being pulled away from the mat, you can always take a strap or anything similar to extend the arms, and you can rest those elbows down on the floor. And then we're going to think about pressing that bottom leg into the hands or the strap as we simultaneously root it back up into the top leg. Top leg roots down into bottom leg. The feet are nice and active here. Let's point and flex those feet. Continuing to squeeze the legs, continuing to melt the shoulder heads down to the floor. Let's draw nice big circles one direction with nice pointed toes. We'll go the other direction with those circles. stop, nice active flexed feet, like you're trying to press the feet into walls. So we're really going to squeeze the legs together, really going to fire up those feet. We're going to try to keep the legs exactly where they are, and we're just going to release those hands down alongside the body. So we're going to do a little bit of core work here. We're going to root those hands down. This is the easiest variation to keep the hands on the floor. It becomes easier the more we squeeze the legs together and the more we really use those hands. We want to make sure that our neck and shoulders stay perfectly relaxed. There's no lifting and lowering. That we keep our rib cage engaged and rooting back towards the floor. And that we keep those legs squeezing together. We don't want any pain in the low back. We're going to inhale those knees away from the belly. Maybe that heel taps on the floor, but it doesn't need to. And then we're going to exhale the knees towards the belly. Inhale, knees away. Exhale, knees towards you. If you find that a bit challenging, you can always place a block under that heel to raise the floor up, so you don't have to move quite as far. And you can tap that heel on the block and exhale to draw them in. Right? Always options. If you do a few of these and it's super easy peasy and you want to play with the progression, we can always, when we inhale or when we exhale to lift the knees in, we can lift that sacrum away from the floor, really controlled. Inhale to tap, exhale to draw in and lift the sacrum. Nice and controlled. Doing whatever is best for you and your body. Let's go 3 more here. Really rooting the hands down, melting the shoulders to the floor, zipping the belly. And then on the third, we're going to hug those knees in towards the belly, hands stay rooted on the floor, and we're going to hold. Maybe the sacrum is lifted, maybe it's not. And then we're going to exhale nice and slow to release that foot down. If you have a block under the foot, you can remove it now. That left foot is going to be on the floor. So we're going to come into a twist from here. So if this is a comfortable position for you to come into a twist, you can stay. I'm going to show you what that looks like. We're going to root the hands down, root that foot down, lift up the hips, and slide them just a little bit over towards the right. And then nice and slow, really active feet. Let's move the hands out halfway to a T and let those legs lower to the left. We want to keep that right shoulder head melting down. And when we arrive, I like to dig my elbows down and lengthen my spine and kind of bring it back in alignment with that right hip. If that's too much for you in the low back, no worries. There's always an option to uncross the legs. If you have a bolster, you can slide it down so that you bring the floor to you again. Walk those hips over, palms rooted, and then we lower the legs down onto our bolster. If you feel like you need a little more room in the low back, you can always pop a block between the thighs to give yourself lots of room. Right? And then wherever you are, we're going to flip the palms to face up to the ceiling. Hands can come up to a T, or we can go to cactus arms. So wherever you are, just staying and breathing here in your twist. In this one, I like to think about my right front ribs rooting heavy down to the floor as my left back ribs root up towards the ceiling. Really nice and gentle. We want that right shoulder head heavy here. Because we're staying still in the upper body, that right knee doesn't need to be rooting onto something. But sometimes it's nice to feel something tangible under that knee that we can root that leg into. go 5 more deep breaths here. Nice active feet, protecting those knees. When those 5 breaths are complete, we're going to slide those hands down, flip the palms down to face the floor. About halfway to a T, really fire up the legs and squeeze them together, fire up the feet, and then we'll draw those knees back in through center. Wiggling the hips back through the middle, and then when you arrive, you're going to uncross the legs. Nice. Right away, let's draw that left knee in towards the chest. Right foot's going to stay on the floor, and we're going to take the opposite interlace over that left shin. Shoulder heads are relaxed to the floor, and we're pressing out through the sole of the left foot. And then we're going to cross that left leg tightly over top of the right leg for sleepy cow. Firing up the feet, squeezing the legs in towards one another. And then we're going to lift the legs up. And we're going to take that same interlace behind the right thigh. Again, using a strap if we need to here to make sure those shoulders are relaxed to the floor. Neck is nice and neutral. You can shake the head for no at any time. Good, so again, we're really thinking here of rooting the top leg down into the bottom leg, squeezing the bottom leg up into the top leg as it also roots into the hands or the strap. And let's point and flex those feet here. And then with pointed toes, draw nice big circles, one direction. And then we'll go the other way with those circles. And then we'll stop, nice, active, flex feet. So firing up the legs, squeezing them in towards one another here. Keep those feet super nice and active. Let's keep those legs exactly where they are, and we'll release the hands down onto the floor. So rooting the fingertips, circumference of the palm all the way up to the shoulder heads. Shoulder heads don't move. Belly stays nice and engaged, zip right up, and melt into the floor. Again, if you felt like you needed a block under that heel on the last side, feel free to place one there now to lift that floor up towards you. And we're going to inhale those knees away from the belly. Exhale, knees towards the belly. Never feeling this in the low back. Really engaging the front body here. Neck is always neutral, and we're relaxed in the jaw. Taking any modifications you took on the last side. If on the last side you began to lift that sacrum, when we exhale in, you can do so now. Just taking whatever variation is right and appropriate for you. Let's go 3 more here on this side. just like that. And then on the third, we're going to exhale those knees in towards the belly to hold. Maybe sacrum is lifting, maybe it's not. Breathing here. And then slowly releasing down. Let's all release that right foot down to the floor. So again, if you feel here that you're going to need something under that leg as we come into our twist, feel free to take it, a bolster or a block. Remembering that you can always uncross the legs, pop a bolster under the right leg. Maybe you want to block between the legs to give a little bit more space for the back. We're all going to plant the hands halfway to a T, palms rooting down to the floor. We're going to press down through the feet to lift up the hips and slide them over to the left. And then really nice and slow, we're going to activate those legs to let them fall over to the right. I'm going to pop myself a block here so that I have something tangible to root into. I'm going to dig my elbows down and I'm going to lengthen my spine once I've arrived away from that pelvis. Settling here, let's all flip those palms and let's bring those hands to whatever variation we did on the other side. They can be a shoulder's height or they can be cactus arms. Whatever is comfortable for you, as long as that left shoulder is melting down to the floor. Again, that left knee doesn't need to be rooted into something here, but I find it's a little more comfortable if it is. And just breathing into that twisted spine. Breathing. Good girl. Let's go 5 more deep breaths here. And when those 5 breaths are complete for you, we're going to slide the hands down halfway to a T. We're going to plant the palms on the floor, fire up the legs, fire up the core, and then draw those knees back through center. When we arrive, wiggle those hips back through the middle, uncross, and release both feet down to the floor. We're going to release that with a little bridge, so let's bring those hands alongside the body, rooting the palms all the way up to the shoulder heads. Feet are a nice hip distance apart, and knees are pointing straight up to the ceiling. We're going to push down through the feet to lift up the low back, the middle back, and the upper back for our little bridge. Remembering that if this tugs into the front of the knee at all, there's always the option to walk those feet further away from you. If it feels a little bit tight in that low back, there's always the option to walk those feet further away from one another, to about a shoulder's distance apart, if that's more comfortable. Really using those feet, lifting the middle of the butt up towards the ceiling as we drop the front rib cage down to the floor. Let's go 3 more deep breaths here. When those breaths are complete, we're going to exhale down nice and slow, one disc, one vertebra at a time, onto our backs. When the whole spine arrives, let's walk those feet together, walk the knees together. We're going to roll off to the right, and we're going to push ourselves up into a tabletop position. So coming to stack those hands right under the shoulders. Remembering if this is sensitive in the wrists, there's always the option to walk the hands further away from us.
really rooting those fingers down and thinking of pulling them towards the circumference of the palm to alleviate some pressure from the wrists. If that's still a little bit sore in the wrists or you're feeling anything, we can bring ourselves up onto blocks to make it a little bit easier as well. We never feel our wrists and we never feel our knees in yoga. Never any pain. So let's root those hands right under the shoulders if that's comfortable for us. We're going to get a good grip on those toes. The feet and knees are going to be a hip's distance apart. And then we're going to push the floor away to round the spine and gaze towards the navel. And then inhaling, belly drops, sit bones lift, shoulder heads pull back, and we gaze up. Really focusing on thoracic extension here, right between those shoulder blades. Not so much dropping that belly right down to the floor. I like to lead with my sternum. And then rounding the spine, just moving with your own breath, back and forth. Good. And then bringing ourselves back to a nice and neutral spine. So taking our options here, we can always have those hands facing forward. If you do a lot of yoga and we're really comfortable in those wrists, having them at 90 degrees, maybe we want to turn them out to the side. Just taking whatever option is appropriate for us. Let's untuck those toes, really root the tops of the feet down. Think about pulling those tops of the feet towards the shins to get a really nice lift in the front of that ankle. One day there's no wrinkles in the Achilles heel. Try not to let those heels move. Try not to let those knees walk apart. We're going to start to draw nice circles with the hips. Zipping the belly and continuing to push that floor away the whole time so we have nice extension without tension in those shoulders. Everybody's breathing. Really kicking down into the mat with the tops of those feet. Let's go the other way with those circles. Remembering there's always options with those wrists if this becomes a little bit too intense. Good, and then we're going to bring ourselves back through center. Let's walk those hands a little bit further forward. Let's tuck those toes, and we're going to sink ourselves back into a puppy pose. So really creating as much length as we can from the wrists to the elbows, to the armpits, and then to the hips. Lengthening through the spine here. Ears come between those biceps. Forehead doesn't necessarily need to be on the floor. For most of us, it won't. It will be hovering, nice neutral neck. If you want to take it further here, we just root the hands. We press down through the hands to lift those hips up. Nothing changes in that upper body. Nice heavy head, relaxing through the neck. Hips straight up. Sometimes it's nice to have a slight bend in the knees here so that we can really find the hips rooting up as we melt through those shoulders. Zipping the belly back towards the spine. There's an internal rotation of that lower arm as we root that space between the thumb and the index down to the floor. And there's an external internal rotation of the upper arm, almost like we're turning those armpits to face each other. And those are happening at the same time. Good. Let's go 3 more deep breaths wherever you are. And when those 3 breaths are complete for you, we're all going to come down onto our knees. And we're going to meet in a tabletop position. Good. So coming into our tabletop, really zipping the belly up. Let's go with tucked toes. They're going to be a hips distance apart. We're really going to root that left hand down, and we're going to try to commit to those sides of the torso remaining the same length. So as we lift up that right arm, really lengthening that right hip away from the right armpit. We're going to bend that elbow. We're going to take that hand to the back of the skull. So if this isn't comfortable, that elbow can always be lower. If it's comfortable to have it lifted up to a shoulder's height, we're going to stay here. Inhaling here. We're going to exhale to take that elbow anywhere that's comfortable on that left arm. And then inhale back up. Exhale to twist. Inhale back up. Continuing to root the back of the head into that right hand. We're not really twisting from the neck. We're rotating kind of the whole shoulders here. And then on the next one, if it's comfortable, maybe we want to come into a bit more of an opening. A little bit of a thoracic twist. Continuing to root that head into the hands. Never feeling this in the neck. We'll go through 2 more here. And then we'll come back down to neutral, extend the arm, and release it down to the floor. Nice. Let's go into the other side. So rooting that right hand down really nice and solid. Committing to those sides of the torso, staying the exact same length. As we walk the left hand forward, lift it up. Bending that elbow. Again, the elbow can be lower if it's more comfortable. If we can get it to that nice shoulder's height, staying here. Rooting the head up into the hand. And then keeping that root, maybe exhaling to tap that left elbow anywhere that's comfortable on the right arm, and inhaling back up. Continuing to press the floor away with the right hand. Next time we extend, maybe we want to come into that twist, reaching that elbow up. But again, that neck stays neutral. And we keep the back of the head rooting into the hand. Inhaling to open, exhaling to close. You can always take rest. Let's go 2 more here. Good. And then coming back through neutral, extend that arm and lower it down. Nice. So we can take another puppy here. We can walk those hands forward, tuck the toes, sink the hips back. We can take a dog, or we can take a child, untucking the toes and letting the forehead rest on something. We never ever feel our knees in child's pose, so if we need to pop a block or a bolster behind our knees and take our knees a little wider apart, that's sometimes a nice option. Coming down onto fists is a nice option. Maybe coming down Onto a block is a nice option as long as it's comfortable in the neck and shoulders. Forehead is resting on something, and we don't feel our knees. And if none of those options are comfortable, there's always the option of taking child's pose on our backs just by hugging the knees in towards the chest. Same thing, just on the back, easier on the knees. So taking whatever version feels comfortable for you, and we'll be here for 5 more deep breaths. Good. When those thigh breaths are complete for you, we're going to root down through the hands. We're going to pull ourselves up. So we're going to do our lunges. So we come into our shortened tabletop. I'm going to show us with blocks. If you don't have blocks, that's okay. Any kind of height under those hands is going to be a lot easier to step the leg through. Unless you know that's no problem for you, you can have the hands on the floor if that's comfortable. I'm going to demo with blocks. I like to start at the highest height, and I place my blocks an outer shoulders distance apart on my mat. I'm going to plant my hands on my blocks, and I root the whole circumference of the palm down. 3 middle fingers grip onto the front of the block, and then my thumb and my index grip onto the sides of the block, so that I get that whole circumference rooting and my wrist is really nice and active. Good. So when you found that, we're going to zip the belly up. We're going to push the floor away just enough that we have extension without tension in those shoulders. We can shake the head for no really nice and comfortably. Toes are going to be tucked, and they're going to be about a hip's distance apart, and they're going to stay this distance as we walk the foot forward. So when you're ready, we're going to step that right foot forward, staying a hip's distance apart with that foot. And we want to find our alignment here. So when we look down, we want a really nice straight line from our big toe mound to our heel. We also want a really nice straight line from that shin down to the floor. If this is enough, we stay here. If we want to go a little bit further, we really commit to those 2 alignments not changing at all. As we tuck the toes, lift the back knee, and walk that knee back. Never going through our full 10 out of 10. Come to that nice sweet spot that's appropriate in our body. Really nice tall spine here. Sometimes it's nice to walk those blocks a little bit further back. Lifting through the sternum, zipping the belly. I like to think about pulling my femur on my right leg into my hip socket, as I think the same thing on my back leg. It pulls forward into the hip sockets. There's this alternating force. And I find that really activates the stretch, and I get a little bit of a lift. If you're really comfy here and you want to come down further, you can, so long as we don't round through the spine, right? So we want to keep our nice neutral spine, leading with that sternum, shoulder heads back, skin of the armpits pulling forward, nice neutral neck. You can always dip to the blocks, come down to the floor, but again, only if we can keep a nice long spine doing so. One day the heel of those hands come in line with the heel of the feet, and our knee sits right into our armpit, nice and flush with our shoulder. So taking whatever variation is right for you. Let's go 3 more deep breaths here. Continuing to breathe. When those 3 breaths are complete for you, we're going to come up to whatever height we entered our lunge on, giving ourselves lots of room here. Tucking those back toes really nice and light on the hands. We're going to walk that back knee forward. And we're going to sink those hips back, pulling that leg through, coming back into our shortened tabletop that we started in. Good. When you're ready, we're going to find all those same connections, zipping the belly, pushing the floor away, feet and knees a nice hips distance apart, and then we'll step the left leg through. When we arrive, finding our connections, nice straight line from big toe mound to heel, nice perpendicular shin to the floor. We don't want that knee caving in, and we don't want that knee falling out to the sides. We're trying to find it right straight down. And then if we did so on the other side, walking that knee back without changing anything in that front shin. Nice tall spine. Again, finding that balance here of pulling the femur into the left hip socket as we hug that right femur into the right hip socket. So there's that alternating force as we squeeze the legs towards one another and find a lift. Again, there's always the option here to come down as long as we're not rounding through the spine. Shoulder heads back, skin of the armpits forward, zipping the belly, and leading with that sternum. Let's go 3 more deep breaths here, continuing to breathe. And then when you're ready, we're going to come up, whatever height we started with, giving ourselves lots of room. Again, as we transition, really committing to that femur staying straight. Nice straight line, big toe mound to heel as we tuck those toes and walk that knee in. We sink the hips back. Let's come back into our tabletop. Let's place our blocks off to the side. And then again, you have the option, child's pose, puppy pose, or downward dog. Whatever feels good for you. Wherever you are, finding length in that spine and breathing. Let's go 5 deep breaths wherever you are. Good. And then when those 5 breaths are complete, we're going to pull ourselves back up into a tabletop or lower down onto our knees if we were in dog. We're going to plant one hand off to the side. We're going to lower that same hip down, and we're going to swing the legs out in front of us. So here's where it might be handy to have a pillow or a set of blocks just to give ourselves some height to sit up onto. I'm going to use my bolster. If you have any kind of pillow or any kind of height, I would grab it now. So we're going to bring our bolster behind us, scooch ourselves right in front of it. I like to root my hands onto my bolster and push myself up. When we arrive, we're going to come into easy seated pose. So let's bring that right knee in towards us and the left leg over top. Here I like to walk my feet pretty wide. One day they're stacked kind of right under those thighs. One day those knees are a nice hips distance apart. We really want to push the blade edge of that foot down into the floor to protect those knees. We want them nice and active, preferably no wrinkles in those ankles so we're not sickling through the ankles here. So taking as much height as you need to find a nice tall spine. We don't want to be rolling onto the back of those sit bones here and kind of hunching through the chest. We're going to be doing some twists, a little bit of opening through the spine and through the lungs, especially right now, at a time where it's kind of important. Good. So once you arrive, let's keep that left hand placed on the thigh. We're going to take our right hand out in front of us and we're going to squeeze those fingers together. like you have $100 bills between your fingers and it's a windy day. And then we're just going to start with nice big forward circles here. So that arm can rotate within the shoulder socket. We want to try to keep the torso kind of as still as we're able to. We want to keep that left hand rooting down onto the thigh. I like to do 10 each direction. So when those 10 are complete, let's go backwards. I like to find one point of gaze. You can even close through the eyes if you'd like to, focusing on your breath, focusing on your body from the inside. Good. When those 10 are complete backwards, we're going to stop with the arm up by the ear. So biceps by the ear, fingertips are pointing straight up. So listening carefully, we're going to allow ourselves to come over to the left, but we're not going to bulge and shorten. So the habit here is we're going to want to kind of bulge onto that right side, shortening the left side body. What we want to do in this series is we want to avoid that by moving those ribs over to the left. So I like to plant my hands either on a block or on the floor, whatever's more comfortable. And we're just going to begin to walk ourselves over to the left. Trying to keep the neck nice and neutral. It can be challenging here. Melting the shoulders away from the ears. Noticing how even though I'm leaning to the left, my left side body is long, just like my right side body is long. There's none of this. We're thinking of moving that right rib cage over to the left rib cage. Breathing into that right side body. Really sinking that right hip bone down, rooting it into our bolster as we lengthen as much as we can from that right sit bone to the right fingertips. Let's go 5 more deep breaths here. When those 5 breaths are complete, nice and slow, we're going to walk ourselves back in. Good. Let's bring that hand right back onto the thigh. We're going to inhale the right arm out to the right to a shoulder's height. If this feels like enough of a stretch in that right arm, you can stay. If you want a little bit more for nerve flossing, you can think about pulling those fingertips down towards the floor, whatever's comfortable for you. We're going to start with the easier side first, so we're going to exhale that right ear to the right shoulder, nice and gently in the neck. Try not to shorten through that right side body and collapse into those ribs. And then inhaling that head back through center. This time left ear to left shoulder. It's going to be a little bit deeper, especially if we're pulling those fingers down to the floor. And then head comes back through center. Let's slowly release that arm down, bringing our hands back onto our thighs. Good. So let's come into a twist here. So let's plant that left hand behind us, either onto our bolster or onto the floor, maybe onto a block if we're seated a bit high. And then we're going to take the right hand across onto our left thigh. We're going to really lengthen the spine here, creating lots of height. And then we're going to begin to twist from the belly to the ribs, to the shoulders, Weighting equally through both sit bones. Again, thinking of those left front ribs rooting back as the back right ribs root forward. And then slowly, head comes back through center, shoulders, ribs, and belly. Good. Let's take one hand onto either kneecap. Let's extend one leg gently long in front of us, and then the other leg. Careful with those knees. You can give yourself a little point and flex here if it's comfortable. Remembering to micro bend the knees here. Maybe some circles, one direction. And then the other way. And then stopping, nice active flexed feet. So let's come into the other side. So this time that right leg's going to be in front. So let's draw the left leg in towards us and the right leg's going to be in front. Again, walking those feet a little bit wide, giving ourselves lots of space for those hips. Firing up the feet, digging that blade edge of the foot down into the floor to protect those knees. No wrinkles on the inside or outside of the ankles, but here it's going to be more prone to being wrinkly on the inside, if that makes sense. Good, so this time let's root that right hand down onto the thigh. Let's take the left hand out in front of us, squeezing the fingers together, and then beginning with nice forward circles here. Trying to keep the torso square. Just rotating the arm. You can close the eyes if you'd like. You can gaze straight forward. Whatever feels good for you. Again, I like to do 10 forward, 10 backward. So beginning backward circles, squeezing the fingers together. Good. When those 10 are complete, again, we're going to stop with that arm up by the ear. I'm going to grab my block for our lean. Bicep is by the ear, really nice tall spine here, really committing to each side of the torso remaining the same length. As we place the right hand beside us, and we begin to lean our ribs over to the right, not shortening on the right side and bulging on the left. Lengthening from that right hip to the right armpit. So maybe we don't lean quite as far, and that's totally okay. Trying to keep that left arm straight. Trying to keep the neck nice and neutral, although it's challenging here. Equal space between those ears and those shoulders if we can. Breathing into that left side body, lengthening, lengthening from left sit bone to left armpit. Let's go 5 more deep breaths here. And then nice and slow as we came in, coming back through center. Good. And then nice and slow, we're going to draw that left arm out to the left to shoulders height. So again, if we want it to be a little bit deeper, we can push those fingers down to the floor, but we certainly don't have to. And then we're going to do the easier side first. So without collapsing into that left side body, we're going to gently lower the left ear to the left shoulder. Let's bring that right hand back onto the right thigh if it isn't already. If this is a bit too intense, you can always lower that arm. Bring the head back through center. And then nice and gentle, lowering the right ear to the right shoulder, trying to keep both sides of that torso nice and long. Good. And then gently bringing the head back through center. Bringing the wrist back through neutral and releasing that hand down onto the thighs. So we're coming into the twist on our other side. So I like to put a little height behind me if I'm sitting up on a bolster. We're going to place our right hand onto that height, and then we're going to take our left hand across to our right thigh. Lift up, find lots of length, and then with a nice tall spine, twisting from the belly to the ribs, to the shoulders, remembering that that left shoulder likes to come along for the ride here, seeing if we can melt it away from the ears. Give ourselves lots of room to twist. Very last thing to go is the gaze. Trying to keep equal length from hip to armpit on both sides. Let's go 3 more deep breaths here. When those breaths are complete for you, head comes back through neutral, slowly unwinding the spine. Good, so one hand onto either kneecap, extending one leg long, extending the other leg long, letting go through those knees. Micro-bending the knees, making sure they're not falling towards the floor. Nice active feet, let's point and flex again, one more time. Nice circles, one direction. Circles the other direction. And stop, nice active flexed feet. Let's root down through the hands. Let's slide ourselves forward off of our height. I'm going to rotate myself onto my mat here. If we had height of any kind, let's slide that height under our knees. So a pillow, if you had blocks, you can always use blocks under the knees instead. I just like to have them at an angle so they're under my thighs nice and flat, and there's a corner resting on the floor, just so it's nice and flat under my thighs. Wherever you are, your feet are going to be a nice hips distance apart. Give yourself lots of space. And then I like to come into the middle of my sit bones. I like to root my heels down so my toes are pointing straight up to the ceiling. And then we're just going to walk ourselves forward. So here the spine doesn't need to be perfectly straight. We're not going to wrench ourselves forward with a rounded spine. But it's okay if it rounds a little bit. Just a passive fold to close practice. If it's easy for you to grab the feet, you can grab the feet. If you happen to have a bolster and blocks, I like to pop a block under my forehead here. Just so it's nice and restful at the end of practice. Nice stimulation of the parasympathetic nervous system here, right under that part of the forehead. And just breathe in here. Focusing on breathing into that back body, into those back ribs, the back of your lungs.
3 more deep breaths here, focusing on expanding that back body. When those 3 breaths are complete, gently opening through the eyes. Let's root our hands down and we'll slowly walk ourselves back up. From here, we're going to make our way into Shavasana. So if you want to keep the height under the knees, that's sometimes a really nice option. Nice for the low back. If you'd rather remove the height, you can remove it. Wherever you are, we're going to find nice bent knees, pressing the soles of the feet down and lowering ourselves nice and slow onto our backs. Extending one leg and the other leg long. I will be cueing us out of Shavasana and closing together, so you're welcome to stay here and just relax. Palms face up to the ceiling, feet and legs nice and heavy. When you're ready, very slowly, very gently, you need to wake up your body from the inside by deepening your breathing. Wiggling your fingers, wiggling your toes. With a big inhale, stretching the arms up overhead. And exhale, let them fall down heavy. As you bend the knees, beginning to walk the feet towards the seat, moving any props you may have on your mat. With a big exhale, rolling off to one side. And inhaling as we push ourselves up to find a nice, comfortable seated position, using height if we need to. Let's bring the hands to heart center, resting the thumbs on the sternum. Bow the chin slightly down towards the fingertips. We'll close with 3 deep cleansing breaths together. So taking a big exhale, emptying your lungs of air.
Taking a deep inhale through the nose. Exhaling out the mouth. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. And release. Thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your practice, and hopefully we'll see you soon. Namaste.